Hey everybody, this is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, March the 25th. We're here at the Bassmaster Classic. We recorded with the guys the information going on your lakes. We're going to check in with what Josh, Lee, Tom, and Gentry have to say right now. Well, good morning everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, March the 25th. Hey, it's Bassmaster Classic week. We're up here at Knoxville. We're going to check in with our sources that are down there fishing on the bodies of water that we report on. Right now, we're going to check in with Tom Ott. Tom, what's happening at Lake Guntersville?
Man, I tell you, Dano, Guntersville is, definitely intact. The weather has just been tough on the fishermen, but I don't think it's affected the fish a whole lot, to be honest with you. You know, it was a big tournament one last weekend. 29 pounds, I believe, was the final tally. A bunch of mid 20-pound bags that were weighed in. So the fish are definitely active out there. But I'm telling you, just myself, I mean, having a little bit of issue just staying with the fish. Definitely there's fish everywhere from a foot out to about 10 foot is what I'm finding. But just finding a consistent bite has been real difficult. So I've been going in and out, deep, shallow, deep, shallow. The good thing right now, we're starting to see some plastics play a little part. Obviously the jig's playing some parts, but your moving baits are still catching fish. But it seems like the chatterbait, your vibrating jigs are really still putting the meat on the table. And if you just want to catch a lot of fish, grab a Cinco, wacky rig it, or just Texas rig it and throw it around some shallow grass. And we're catching a lot of bucks, and every once in a while you run across some pretty good fish.
Well, I know that the Alabama Bass Trail was won with 29 pounds, and our friend Tracy Robinson and his son Dustin, they finished 10th over there. But that is putting out some weight. What about the crappie bite? What are you seeing there right now?
Crappie bite's still pretty consistent, around the causeways. I mean, I think you could go catch 29 pounds of bass or catch 29 crappie, whatever you prefer around the bridge right now. I think it's the way they're doing it. But, the crappie are definitely starting to do that little migration thing, pulling away from following the bait fish right now, pulling away from those causeways. I think that's a high percentage area you catch those fish at. But if you're going to catch some bigger fish, some of the larger schools have definitely moved off a little bit. But I think you can still find them in that 8 to 10 foot range, maybe even down into that 4 foot range with some of those spawners still out there.
Well, I know that there's a lot of fishing to be had. Yes, the weather's probably pushing them off just a little bit, but we're still seeing some good results. And all it can do is go up from here, which is kind of scary. Hey, man, Tom, we appreciate everything. Thanks for the time, and we will talk to you again next week, my friend.
All right, guys, fire up that Mercury if you're not catching them and move somewhere else and you'll catch them. But tight lines, we'll talk to you next week.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, March the 25th, Bassmaster Classic Week. And I'm up here in Knoxville getting ready to cover the biggest tournament in fishing. But we're going to make sure to check in with Lee Pitts, who's catching some of the biggest crappie I think I've ever seen up there on Weiss Lake. Lee, what's going on at Weiss?
Man, like you said, we're catching some big ones, but we're just not catching the numbers right now. It's the water temperature. We were seeing a few weeks ago it being in the mid 60s. Now we're looking at finally bumping up 53, 54. It's just got them shocked a little bit. What we're catching, we're having to go back deep. Some of the fish that were pulled up in these bays, they've got back out in the main troughs out here and just laying on the bottom. Looking at the hummingbirds, I'm graphing a whole lot of fish. Just getting them to open their mouth has been the problem. But I think, with this, with later in the week, it getting a little warmer, the sun popped back out. All of a sudden, it's summertime on us again. It's going to help that bite. But the ones we're catching are big fish.
All right, so let's talk about the bass bite at Weiss Lake. What's happening there?
Even through this cold that we've had, the bass have stayed pretty constant. And still staying shallow. I think that chatterbait bite has been real good. Some of these guys are even picking up some plastics and catching some of these fish up tight and around docks. Water's still about 3 foot low, so kind of be careful on some of your normal springtime runs that you make and some of the shortcuts that you go through. You may get your attention grabbed a hold of on some of these big rock piles. So kind of still be careful. Water's still low; it's not up yet, so just watch where you're going and be careful with it.
We like service work at Bucks Island, just not the ones where we have to try to find you a new prop because a blade's been knocked off. Let's talk about Neely Henry. I know the water's down a little bit. They pulled the water down a little bit more, but we're still seeing some good fish coming out of there. What are you hearing out of Neely?
Just like you said, Neely is kind of staying strong right now. It's really been the bass bite is still strong at Neely, catching a lot of fish, and it's not just one or two guys catching them. Seems to be like everybody's catching bass down there, and I think the crappie in some of the bays they've got and just kind of staying with it. So I don't think that they're catching as big a fish as what we're catching here at Weiss, but they're catching a lot of numbers down there at Neely.
Yeah, we saw Ethan Martin on his social media as a good customer and friend at Bucks Island. He caught a few good fish in just a couple hours yesterday, some bass, spotted and largemouth. So he won't tell us what he's doing, but we know he's catching them.
Well, sure, you got to keep some things you sell.
With him, I guarantee it's got to be some sort of a moving bait, though. Lee, as always, brother, we appreciate everything. Stay warm, catch a few more fish, and send us pictures.
All right, y'all. Thank you. Talk to you next week.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, March the 25th, Bassmaster Classic Week. And while we're up here in Knoxville covering that tournament, we're going to check in with Josh Herron and talk Lay Lake and Logan Martin. What's happening right now at Lay Lake and Logan Martin these days, Josh?
Man, if they leave the water level alone, it'll get pretty good. Lay's actually fishing pretty decent right now. You got a bunch of fish pulling up. Logan's kind of the same thing. Mythical largemouth are starting to show up, getting ready to do their deal. Kind of like everybody said, this weather's it's got a hit or miss day to day, but it still has its glorious moments for the present Coosa River. So I mean, man, you're really gonna have to kind of junk fish right now and fish the day. Like leading up to this weekend, when you get these really warm trends, I mean, you get these fish that kind of, and we're on a new moon, so you get these fish that want to do their thing, but they've had 3 days of 30-degree nights leading up to it. So you really got to fish the day. Afternoons are probably still going to be your best bet right now.
What kind of water clarity are we looking at on the lakes? What kind of water temperatures are we seeing?
So the lakes got knocked back. I mean, man, they shot up a ton 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But nights mean more than days right now. So, and that's what you always need to look at, especially when these fish are getting ready to spawn. Length of day, but your nighttime lows mean more than your daytime highs. So until we start getting some nights that are in the high 50s and stay in there for a few days, they're not going to do it yet. I'm sure some fish already have on that last moon with a little bit of warming, but they're coming. Fishing's getting better.
Are we looking at jerk baits, bladed jigs, crankbaits? Is that what we're looking at, or are we still having to kind of hunker down for them?
No. I mean, you're looking at spawning bays. You're looking out the mouths of them. You're looking for staging fish is what you're looking for. So anywhere that you think these fish are going to go to spawn, you just look at the next transition out. And that's where most of these fish are sitting right now.
Well, and I did notice Kyle Jesse from Bassmaster, he bought one of your Tato glides in the Rough Rider color, and him and Bo Browning went out fishing, and he's become a believer in them things right now. That Eon put some fish in the boat there at Lay.
Yeah, man. I got a couple buddies of mine that are fishing the Toyota this week, and they're catching them on into Smith really good. And I've got a couple customers that are catching them really good at Guntersville on it right now too. So these fish are just feeding up the spawn.
Yep, they're getting ready. They're up there. So, man, we appreciate everything, and we will talk to you again next week. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, March 25th. Hey, while I'm up here at the Bassmaster Classic watching everybody else fish, we're going to check in with Gentry Gordy and see what he has to say about Jordan Lake and Lake Martin. Let's start at Jordan Lake. What are you hearing out of there right now, Gentry?
Jordan, it's better than Martin. The water's been stable up there. I think there's still a slight stain up there, but for Jordan, that's really what you look for. The cold weather, I think, has got them. I mean, they're still biting. Don't get me wrong, but not like you would think this time of year, just because of this cold front. But they're, of course, your A rigs and stuff are still playing. I've seen some shad in the back of some of them pockets. I don't know if that with the warm weather than the cold weather. It's got them jacked up right now, Dano.
I can imagine that they're kind of all over the place. We're up here covering the Bass Pro Tour right before the Classic up here at Douglas and Cherokee, and it's a shad bite there. I'm assuming that might be what's happening there as well.
And I've even seen some of them, some of them shad like all the way back, like skinny water. And there's some fish around it, but the big ones are not back there yet.
Yeah, I think they got pushed off a little bit by the cold weather. Okay, let's turn our attention to Lake Martin. I know that can be a little bit more stable, but you say that's a little off right now?
Yeah, and here's why I think, right there at the end of February, we had such a warming trend, and those fish was really making that push. I think a lot of them probably made a bed. Then the water started coming up to the summer pool. The cold weather hit, and it dropped the water temperature 10 degrees. I mean, I saw 65 the end of March. I was up there this past weekend, and it was like, some places was 56, 57. So I think that's what's got Martin. It still took a good bag to win, but I caught them every way. I caught them on a swim jig, caught them on a crankbait, a shaky head, a jig. I mean, they're eating. It's just I can't find the size.
Yeah, and the patterns, it gets a little bit scattered and stuff. What are you throwing right now on a swim jig on? What kind of cover are you throwing that around? Or are you just throwing it on the bank?
At Martin, I'm throwing it on the bank. I'm looking for that drop off. Like a rock drop off, say 3 foot down to 8, 10, 12 foot. For some reason, it just seems like some of your better spots will hang there. Even, and I even do it up shallow just because, so many fish up there see a chatterbait and a square bill. I just think a small swim jig was just something a little different. That's why I caught them on it.
Well, that works, man. I appreciate everything, and we appreciate the time you spend with us. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yes, sir. Y'all take care.
Well, that'll do it for our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, March the 25th. Thanks to the guys and everything that they do every week to help us put more fish in the boat. We'll check in after the Bassmaster Classic. Don't forget, Bucks Island is open. We are busy, ready for you. Anything you need right there, whether it's tackle, parts, service, or sales, if you're looking for that new boat, come see us. But check in with what our pro staffer, Scott Canterbury's done at the Bassmaster Classic. Ends tomorrow. Looking forward to talking to you guys. You are the best part of Bucks Island.